when you holistic health and wellness, right? You came out of your journey, the horrible experiences you had of being mistreated by the medical profession, misdiagnosed, misunderstood, not listened, right? You came out of that and you've luckily had that encounter, found the right pathway, dove right into that, and got out, your studies and your heart for this whole thing. And you saw a lot of other people along the way who needed the same answers you did and weren't finding them. So I'm guessing, right, that was a big impetus as to how you created Katie Hadley Holistic Health and Wellness. But tell me, because I'm actually super curious, like, who did you really build that for? Like, who were you wanting to serve? And was it to save them the journey that you had? Or is there more to it than that?
Yeah. So I started my private practice before I was even a healthcare practitioner. I was had a health coaching business, and I knew that it was going to evolve, and I wanted it to evolve as I expanded my learning and my education and my experience. So it I've shared with you, and I've kind of shared with our audience once or twice. So when I first got into, like, as I was going through my health journey and trying to kind of find healing, I knew that like exercise was important and nutrition was important. I started learning about that. But then I got into the fitness world, and that kind of took me down the wrong direction with like a pretty unhealthy relationship with those behaviors. And so when I was in that fitness world, I really saw this need for, I was learning about all these different aspects of wellness, and yet in the fitness world, it was so focused on aesthetics, and it was really only focused on exercise, and it was really this unhealthy relationship. And so when people would come into the gym, I'd be like, so how's your stress levels? Like, how are you sleeping? People are like, you are the weirdest personal trainer I've ever met with. And I'm like, let's talk about, like, are you seeing a therapist? Like, how is that trauma journey going? I'm like coaching people. Like, meanwhile,
can I just interrupt for 1 second? If you tried to have that conversation, I'm just trying to think of that being said in the UK. I can't even imagine that. How's it going with your therapist? We don't have therapists over here. We just get bitter and twisted and weird. Like, it's not.
Oh, no. Everyone here has a therapist. I've had a therapist since I was like 12 years old.
I know, but you're from California. I literally don't know anyone with a therapist. Like,
really?
No.
Oh my gosh, that's shocking. How do you guys survive? How do you move past things? Like, how do you deal with childhood trauma and, like, I don't know, the life?
Okay, well, this talk just derailed quickly, didn't it? I
I'm from California, but now I live in Virginia, and everyone has a therapist here too. It's just a thing.
Okay, I'm going to totally guess here and be extraordinarily, probably like culturally racist in a sense, and say that, okay, in Australia, we just pull up our inner grit. Like, we just find the backbone and sort of soldier on. Like, we're born of the desert and of scorpions and snakes, and we just, like, it's just like, we'll just be strong enough to do it, right? So that's my assumption. I don't know. And in the UK, I think it's just like, well, we don't talk about anything. Why would we talk about feelings? Like we talk about the weather so that we don't have to talk about anything else. So it's like, talk about yourself. No. Let's bury that down. The rain today. Yeah. So that's my culturally inappropriate assumptions. Oh, you've frozen or I've frozen. So that might be a mercy in disguise, depending on whether or not I'm being censored at this point. Okay, I don't know if you can even hear me, because hello world if you're listening to me, but Katie's frozen on my screen. So I respect that you have a therapist. I think that's amazing. But I don't really know what that even means, other than you've got someone to talk to. I'm going to check my phone because I can't even see you. There, you're back.
Well, that was a great time to cut out. My internet just gave out, so I switched internets, and I think we're good now.
Okay, I don't know when you stopped hearing me. I don't know if I was broadcasting or if you were broadcasting or if no one was broadcasting. Maybe I was being censored by like the machine.
The world. Yeah, the universe was like,
Let's quiet her down.
Yeah, so here we like to work through our traumas, and we understand how important it is to health. So I am pro therapist. I actually did my undergraduate degree in psychology. I don't know if we talked about that.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, where were we? So before we got derailed, okay, so yeah, so I was the crazy personal trainer who was like asking about your mental, emotional health and like your sleep hygiene and like all the things. And then that kind of rolled into, okay, I have to get out of fitness. I have to get into healthcare because what I really care about is people's health. You know, I was working with the people who would come to the gym because they were pre-diabetic or because they had a family history of heart disease. I was working with that population already, with the people who cared about their health. I wasn't working with the people who were, you know, obviously aesthetics, but just kind of into like that certain, I don't know if like the same gym culture exists where you are, but here there's like a very specific gym culture. And I think sometimes that goes into the biohacking space, but also sometimes the longevity people kind of go into the biohacking space. So it's kind of, they're kind of two different worlds. And so it's really at the core of it, it's what were these people's motivation? And so I was working with the people whose motivation was to live a long, healthy life, you know, with their families and, you know, do the things that they wanted to do. And that's always resonated with me. In fact, I would get people who would come in. And so I was a manager. I don't know if I said this. So I was a manager. I would like manage the personal training department. And so I would get people who'd come in and sign up, and I would like try to pair them with the right people because everyone's approach to the same thing, exercise, is very different, right? Just like there's a million people in the nutrition space, there's lots of people in the longevity space for humans. There isn't really anyone in the longevity space for pets, but right, like, and so, but you have to find who you kind of vibe with. And so I knew that I always vibed with those people who wanted to optimize themselves in every way so that they could live their best life. So that evolved into, I left the gym and started my own business, which was health coaching. At that time, it was actually called Holistic Health and Fitness. And I did, you know, exercise was a bigger piece where I'd like write people's workout programs as well as talk to them about the other bits. And then I, you know, became a dietitian and studied functional medicine and all of that. And then it morphed into my private practice. But it's interesting because it's always been kind of the same route, but it's looked a little bit different in my own ability to support people. And it was interesting because as I was sharing my story, you know, I've always been really open about my story and kind of how I got into this space, like, you know, my struggle with mental health as a teen and suicide attempts and, you know, my gut health struggles and all of that. And I thought I was really going to attract people who resonated with the mental health side of things. And I did. I still work with a good amount of people who especially teenagers. Parents will come to me with their teenagers who are struggling with depression, anxiety, and we approach it from a physical standpoint. But I didn't expect so many people to resonate with the experience that I had related to just the failing of the healthcare system. So yes, a lot of people resonate with, oh my God, gut health, me too. That's happened to me also. But overall, just the piece that's resonated, which is why I talk about it so much, because I didn't realize how many people feel so let down by the conventional healthcare system. And they're not just looking for, give me an herb instead of a pharmaceutical. They're like, I want to be heard. And I want to really look at everything, look at me as a whole, and not just like a snapshot in time. And look at why I'm feeling this way and how I can feel my best. Yes, I haven't been diagnosed with diabetes, but I know that I'm headed in that direction. I know I'm pre-diabetic, and I know I have a family history, and I know and I know I don't know what I don't know, right? So it's like this certain group of people that are just not okay with, they're not satisfied with the status quo of what health is, or lack of health education, you know, how we're taught to take care of ourselves, and, you know, our societal standards for what healthy is. You know, people who aren't satisfied with the fact that 4 of the 5 top killers in humans are all preventable. Like, that's just, they're not satisfied with that. And neither am I. So I guess that's the people who I speak to. And I think it's interesting because in my private practice, I work with folks like one-on-one, right? Like especially gut health, but again, mental health, kind of all over the board, arthritis, like diabetes, kind of everywhere. But it's the same, I think it's fundamentally the same group of people that we speak to here in our pet and parent longevity community, because it's just kind of coming at it from a different angle. One is, let's look at your tests, let's look at your labs, let's do a deep dive and kind of get nitty gritty about you and where you're at and how we can specifically optimize you. But at pet and parent longevity community, it's really the same group of people. It's just a different approach. We're still focusing on foundational lifestyle. It's just not one-on-one. It's more a group, it's community. So it's just a different approach. And everyone's going to be different in terms of what kind of support they want and like. And maybe it's both, maybe it's one or the other. Let me take a breath.
I was going to say, I think you need to breathe after all that. But I mean, that's a great thing, because that's when you pick up pace and you have that ability to just speak, right?
I can literally talk about that. I went on a trip this week into the mountains.
Just cut me off. That's fine.
Yeah, let me just cut you off more, because now I'm on a roll. I went on a trip this week into the mountains, and it was like supposed to be this restful, relaxful thing. And people were like, oh, what do you, it was like a group of people. Some of them I didn't. And they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm just like going. And they're like, hey, I have to stop because I don't know if this is something you're interested in, but it's literally something I could talk about all day, every day. And I know you're the same.
I had a discovery call last night. 15 minutes is a discovery call. Let me see if I can help you. Let's see if you want my help. Do I have what it takes to provide? Are we building a relationship here? Is this something nice, right? Anyway, it was pretty apparent that there was a good fit, because 15 minutes became over an hour. It's on a discovery call.
Well, that's what happened when we met. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
It was supposed to be like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something. And we talked for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like legitimately 3 hours. I think it was you more supporting me and my pets than me supporting you, but
right. But when you find that spark, when you find your tribe, you know you belong.
Yeah.
Right. And it's obvious. It's obvious really early on. Oh my gosh, you care too. It's your enthusiasm, your passion is coming out, is bubbling over. I'm attracted to that because it's something I can tell. I can talk to you on a mental level. I can talk to you on an emotional level. I feel like we've got a trust that lies beneath us because we care about something. And so it just opens doors. And then as soon as you open doors, you open up opportunities, takes more time, you invest more into it, it grows. It's very, very rapid. And for us, that certainly was. And I think that's what certainly for me, and I would agree, I think that you as well, that's what we want to build in terms of who comes into our world, who comes into the pet and parent ecosystem. And there's lots of different things to do and engage with there. There's free stuff, there's paid stuff, there's one-on-one stuff, there's group stuff, there's learning stuff, there's coaching stuff, there's eye-opening practical stuff. Like we've put a lot of things into this. But, you're only going to get out of it the value if we're the right people for you. Clearly we're the right people for each other, which is awesome. Hey. But who is okay? Here's this. Who is it not? Who did you not build your business for? And when thinking about what we do here, who is it not for? I mean, obviously, you're going to have to like listening to us talk. That's a given. But apart from that,
there are people who are very satisfied to take a pill for an ill. And I think it's really important as a healthcare practitioner to come from a really non-judgmental place. And so I try not to do that, because if you are satisfied with medicine 2.0, which is kind of what we're in now, I think, then when you're given a diagnosis, you'll be given a pharmaceutical. And it's easy. It's very easy in that moment to take a medication over changing your lifestyle. Like, it's not easy to make the changes that we talk about. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And if that is you, this space isn't for you. And again, a non-judgmental space. Like, I get it. It's way easier. Not only is it easier in terms of pop a pill versus do the things, it's easier from a societal standpoint, from a cultural standpoint. Like, it just is. That's to seek out, to actively seek out getting to the root cause, actively seek out optimization, actively seek out longevity. It takes work. I mean, guaranteed people in this community didn't just stumble upon it happenstance because they were like you had to have already been interested in these things because this isn't mainstream. So for people who aren't interested in making those hard changes, like, what we talk about isn't going to resonate.
Or it will be aspirationally sort of resonancing, maybe there's a word, but not enough to act. Like, you might be inspired by it. You might hear and go, that sounds pretty cool. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's not real. Be nice if it was real. But am I going to do it? Nah, probably not.
I think we all kind of go through that journey. There's what we call like the stages of change. And one of the stages of change, right? We go from not knowing
nothing.
You don't know anything. And so you don't know you're missing out on something, to having that moment of realization and knowing that there's something else, but not being ready. And I actually really feel for those people, because it's very hard to know when you learn about something, a new approach, whether or not it's fluff or if it's real. Like, that's hard. There's so much fluff out there right now that it's really hard to kind of like wade your way through that. And then to decide, okay, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to move to the stage we call preparation, right? Which is where you start getting ready to do it. Like, that's a pretty big jump. So I actually welcome people. Like, I'm happy. I love it when people question what I'm saying. Like, truly,
yes.
honestly. I love people who ask questions. I was the 13-year-old who was like, yeah, but why? That sounds like yes. Like, I'm still that person. Like, let me pick that apart, please. And it's coming from a place of just wanting to understand, wanting to be. I don't think there's anything wrong with being critical. And so I actually welcome people who are like, yeah, but okay, you're telling me that, what have we talked about recently? Heart disease. You're telling me that heart disease is preventable, and you're telling me that, it's not related to X, Y, Z. Let's talk about it. I'll get on my little whiteboard. We'll talk about the pathophysiology of it, and ask me your questions about saturated fat and cholesterol. And is it true that you should be putting butter in your coffee? Like, let's talk about it, because that's how we can actually, like, the whole point, what we do is we try to empower people, right? Like,
right.
Our whole platform has been about education.
Knowledge is power. Yeah,
exactly. And so if we create a space, if you're ever talking to someone, I will say this, like, anyone listening, if you're ever talking to someone who stands for something and you question it and you ask questions to understand, and if they get defensive, they shut it down, they push back, like, that's a pretty big freaking red flag. And I know a lot of people get that, in with their healthcare practitioners, where they're like, why are you questioning me? I've heard of people having like signs in their office that say, like, don't confuse Google with my medical degree. Like, just kind of insulting, demeaning things, where it's like, no, you should be able to ask questions. You should be doing this. If you're doing this work on your own, you should be able to talk to the person who's guiding you in that journey. So yeah, I think it really, to go back to the question of who is it not for, I think it's just really for people who aren't interested in hearing about it. Like, if you're interested in hearing about it, come on in. Like, we'll talk your ears off. Like,
you'll learn. You'll learn something.
and I think to further that, the other thing that we've really made an effort with Pet and Parent is to support people no matter where they are in their journey. So whether they're in that stage of like, let me ask questions, let me push back, let me kind of figure this out, to I'm just starting, I don't really know anything, to I've been doing this a long time. I mean, we have people in our coaching group who've been feeding raw for like 15 years. And then we have people who are like kind of just getting going in this. And I think no matter where you're at in that journey, if you're surrounded by a community that supports you in that and is cheering you on for that, like, that's your people. We're your people.
Not to be too emotional about it all. But to your point, I mean, I love that too. I really, some of my favorite clients, some of the people I love to work with the most, because it's so powerfully rewarding, is people who are, they've already said goodbye at some point to their fur baby. Like they lived, they loved, they bonded. It's one of the most precious relationships of their life. But the end came and that chapter closed. And now they're ready to bring somebody else in, right? But they're a wiser pet parent than the first time round pet parent, right? Because they know a little bit what this journey looks like now. And so they're like, tell me what I can do from day one, whether that's adoption day, bringing home puppy and kitten, or whether that's gotcha day, when you bring home an older pet that you've adopted, rescued, who's chosen you, whatever it might be, right? Gotcha day or adoption day. Either way, it's day one for you and your fur baby. What can I do from this moment now, right now, immediately? Set us up for that 25-year lifespan. Let's get it nailed right from the very beginning. I want to know all the things, and I'm going to do all the things, not necessarily all at once, but I'm not messing around. I'm not doing a little bit of pick and mix, right? I'm not a big fan of pick and mix. I'm a very extreme person. I'm all or nothing. But don't give me the middle. I do not want the middle. I don't want the half-heartedness. I don't want the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like literally, come in with me all the way, and I will take you as far as you want to go, or as far as I possibly can. Maybe you'll get better than me, and then you can show me the rest of the way. That's fine. My ego doesn't come with me. I got rid of that because I'm like, I just want to learn and do the best I can. If you're better than me, fantastic. I get to learn from you, right? But it's a case of, don't make excuses. Don't give up early. Don't fall at the first hurdle and then throw it away. I can't work with that kind of a mindset, because to me it's more important whether you've got a bruised ego that you failed, or embarrassed that you didn't work out, or cross that you spent $10 that didn't reap a return on that investment because it was the wrong kind of magnesium or whatever, right? I mean, don't let a hurdle stop you from what you can give to your pet. So for me, the pyramid is like this, and animal welfare sits at the top there, and everything else is worth it for that in my mind. So if I find clients, people, pet parents, whoever, who have that same thing, like, it is worth it. I will go through pain on their behalf. I will sacrifice time. I will sacrifice money. I will sacrifice my ego. I will learn. I will give up making excuses, but I will just make it happen. Oh my gosh. You are my people.
I think this is somewhere where we actually differ. And we've talked about this. You and I. You're like, do it or don't. Like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, let me hold your hand.
Yeah, you're good cop and I'm bad cop.
I mean, it's just, and again, those styles, like, what people kind of resonate with is different. Like, some people are like, can you not, like, hold my hand? Like, can you just, I don't need a mom right now. And then other people are like, but I'm scared, or this feels like a lot. Like, walk me through it step by step. I think we do a little bit of both.
I will do either. So long as you want to keep coming. Yeah. But if you fake want to come, if you only half want to come, if you want to come on Wednesday but not on Thursday because that was hard, or, right, imagine how hard it is for your pet, right, to look in their bowl every day and go, dry biscuits again.
Well, that's the difference. That's the difference, because when we're working with when we're talking to someone about their own health, the truth is they have agency over their own body. When we're talking about someone taking care of their pet doesn't have that agency. And so, like, you know, when I see people not taking care of themselves, sometimes I just want to shake them and be like, you deserve better. Like, there's so much more, right? But maybe they're not ready. Versus when you're talking to someone about their pet, it's like, it's up to you. Like, you have to do better. Like, you're taking care of another being. And if you're not actively trying, and here's the thing, right? No one's going to be perfect. And this is not in any way to say, if you're not doing it perfectly right now, like, get out of the community. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The opposite.
No one does it perfectly. There is no
Right.
perfection. There's just moving in that general direction.
To your point, though, it's that want, that effort that really speaks to, it's just like, right, if you have a kid, you're never going to be the perfect parent. And you're never going to feed your kid, you know, I talk with parents all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, my kid had like Kicks for breakfast. You guys have Kicks over there? It's sugary cereal, whatever. You know, my kid had like cereal for breakfast. And it's like, it's okay. It's okay. You're living your life. You're doing the best you can. Like, you know, you made a dinner from scratch last night. Like, it's okay. And it's the same thing where we have to give ourselves the grace not to be perfect in our own journey, with our pets, with our kids, with our parent, whatever it is, whoever we're feeling that responsibility for. And also hold ourselves accountable to whatever the standard is. And maybe the standard is, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try, and I'm going to implement one thing every week, or, you know, whatever it is. Maybe it's tangible, maybe it's more, you know, ethereal, but it's really where you're coming at it from.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, you know, when we do these lives or when we do these workshops, like, we have people in the community that show up to every single thing, and we see you. We know your names. Don't think
we know who you are. Bless you.
We see those names come up again and again and again, and we know that those are the people who are extremely dedicated, who are extremely committed. And I'm sure there are other people that in our community that we don't see as often who have that same dedication. But it's really, I'd say moving. Like, it's moving to hear your guys' stories, the stories that you share with us, you know, when we go on these rants and tangents and rabbit holes, and, you know, that this stuff resonates with you, that you guys have similar experiences, and that you can kind of relate to what we're saying in terms of how we felt and, you know, how we're trying to support you. So I think that we have a really strong community here. And, you know, every day you and I talk about how can we better serve this community? What is it that you guys need, and how can we support you in the way that we wish we would have had in our own journeys? And I think that's always the place that we come from, because we're kind of doing this for our past selves on some level as well.
Yeah, which is true. And that means that we've walked in those shoes. So there's a fair degree of compassion. There's a fair degree of understanding of what was missing, what would have made our life easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, like, if it takes someone 3 years to get from A to Z, not a problem. If it takes someone 3 months to go from A to Z, again, not a problem. Yeah. If you make 4 mistakes along the way or 400 along the way, not a problem. But I'm just looking for people who are all in, who won't compromise, who won't give up, who won't say, I tried that, didn't work, I'm not doing it anymore. They'll say, there still has to be a better way. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to look until I find it, because somebody knows, right? Somebody out there has that answer. And I've got some of them, and I'm going out there and I'm going, somebody knows. Like, there's plenty of people in this world who know more than me. And then they're like, I'm going to go find who they are and what did they know, and then I'm going to bring that back and then serve that out to help, right? So it's never give up. It's be 100% in, And I get really sick of excuses. Excuses to me are meaningless, right? There's a reason and there's a decision, right? You get to have the power to decide. And I never knew until I came into this the painful way that I did. I never knew that I could create the health destiny for my pets. I thought that was pre-done with genetics. I studied genetics at university, right? And I thought genetics is what determines a thing. You get lucky or you don't get lucky, and you have a little bit of influence along the way. Oh, how wrong was I, right? And then when I realized that, it's like, okay, I now have the power. Is my fur baby worth it to do that? 100%. So how can I look into their eyes and say, couldn't be bothered today, didn't want to learn anything today that would help you, couldn't be bothered to make you a raw food dinner because I felt like watching TV instead. Like, those excuses to me don't cut the mustard, because their life to me is worth that and a whole lot more. So that's who I want to be sharing this with, because not only will they never give up, we'll always help each other get stronger and learn more, and we'll always be sharing that with other people who are seeing those successes. And the number of people that message me with feedback and say, you've never believe it, it's only day 7 since we transitioned the food, and 6 people at the dog park this morning said, what have you done with your dog? Like, her coat is like this now. She's got the energy like that now. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, and I'm like, yeah, because now you're going to go and tell all those 6 people in the dog park, and then there's 6 more dogs that get saved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm ranting on my soapbox now. So
I think the thing that, this might sound dark, but I don't mean it to sound dark. I think the thing that connects all of us here in this community is that we've all experienced pain around health, our own health, our pets' health, our family members' health. Because you don't just stumble across this. You've sought it out because you've experienced pain, and you're not satisfied with that, and you want more. You want more for yourself, for your family, for your pets. And I think despite differences that people have within communities or within professions or whatever it is, it's such a human, like, that is what it is to be human. You know, it's 2 sides of the same coin, to have experienced that pain and then to move in a direction to reduce suffering. And before we started recording, you said, what's my big why? That's my big why. The reason I do what I do is because I feel like I have a responsibility as a being on this earth to reduce suffering. And my big goal in life, which is now my career, is to just do that as widely and as broadly as possible, because there is so much suffering on this planet that is needless.
Yeah.
I might not be able to stop wars and end world hunger and do those things, but I'll be damned if I don't try to empower people to reduce their own suffering and that of their family members, because there's so much you can do, and you've been robbed of that information.
Yeah.
So if I could just give my brain, that's what I'm trying to do. And my hands, here's the information, and let me hold your hand as we do it. So on that note, I guess we should wrap up. We're at 35 minutes. This was a good conversation. I love these conversations. They're very real. And I think there's just not enough real conversations about this kind of stuff. That's most people don't have someone to talk to about their health in a really personal way. And I know when it comes to pets' health, if you don't have someone else that takes their pets as seriously as you take your pets, like if their pets aren't their children, like yours are, you can't have those conversations. So I really
that can I interrupt you for 1 second, because that's so real, and I've heard from people saying to me, and I've heard other people have heard the same thing, just get another one, just put that one down. If they're sick and broken, get another one. And it's just like you have no idea. And so the only comparison you can say is, do you have children? And ask them if they have children. If they have children, then you can do a parallel and go, would you do that to your children? Because that's what it is. Would you drop them off at the orphanage and go, you've got an anger management problem, or you don't eat your greens, or you got an F in history or something? Oh, let's drop you off at the orphanage then. Rubbish, I'll go get another one.
It's just so absurd that it's laughable, and yet
right.
so many people don't value animal lives like they do human lives. And again, difference of values, but not this community.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're listening and any of this is resonating, let us know your experiences and what your thoughts are, because we always read those comments, and it's really good to hear from you. And I hope that we can continue to make this space, whether it's in the Facebook group or, however it is that we're connecting, a space for you to connect with people who, if you're raising your hand, you're like, oh my gosh, all of this is so me. You're surrounded by your people here. So
yeah, this is your home, and these are your people. This is your tribe, Yeah. You belong.
Oh, that's good. All right. Until next week, you belong. We'll see you next